Hi, welcome to the Talking Trains Show.
Hey, everybody.
This is Guillermo.
And this is Yimmy. John.
See. And we're here today to talk about technology and model railroading. So because of that, I'm going to see if I can make this work here for my computer. We have some friends here today. We have Dave and Seth, who are kindly waving to you now. Oh, no, they were. Now they are. Yeah. Oh, now they were. And yeah, we've been having all kinds of fun trying to determine how to use our own technology here in the Santa Clara Depot today. It's been really fun for the past half hour trying to figure this out. I'm probably still sweaty because I've been running around here, standing up and checking stuff and going back and checking stuff again. And there's trains going by outside making a bunch of noise. It's really great. But thanks for coming, guys. We're going to have fun here today talking about something that we seem to pick up maybe about once every year or two, talk about technology. And hold on, I'm being paged to something here. 29 comments. Oh my goodness. It still says waiting for TSG to start. Maybe we haven't started.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Just said got it.
Okay, cool. Got it. Okay. So we are live. Anyway.
If anything truly is live.
Yes.
Are you live?
I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe we're all in a simulation.
You know, someone I know says that this is a simulation. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We're going to have fun talking today. I think I already said that. Seth brought some stuff. We have a little presentation in here of some stuff that Murph talked about or is going to talk about. And I should mention that when we talk about technology in the hobby, it's a lot of things. And you might even be surprised that people use technology in ways that you might not have thought of. And this is one of the people I'm thinking of right here sitting next to me, because everyone knows about 3D printing, right? And everybody thought, oh, it's going to be great. I can print my own locomotives and print my own detail parts and print my own buildings and bridge abutments or, whatever. But Murph uses 3D printing in ways that you probably haven't thought of before. So we'll be looking at that later. And I guess we can go around the table just to see what people's, first thoughts are about technology in the hobby.
Remember, we got the guys in the basement, too.
Oh, we got guys in the basement that are going to join us. My goodness, I'm glad you said something. Let me explain that, too. We have other guests as well that are joining us live from remote places.
With technology.
With using technology in the hobby, right? So why don't we do that? We'll go around the table, then we'll add these other guys and they can give us their 2 cents, and then we'll start our discussion. So why don't you go? Well, why don't you go? You're the co-host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what I'm going to talk about.
Sure. Talk about what you're going to talk about.
Okay.
But don't talk about what you already talked about. Talk about what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So I've been doing 3D printing for probably about 6 years or so. I started off with a little monoprice mini, which had a 4.5 by 4.5 inch print bed. And I think my first project that I ever did was just a speaker box for a scale trains engine, actually 3 of them. And I've gone through 3 different printers since then, and I've done various other things. The interesting thing is most of the stuff is nothing that you'll actually see above the layout. A lot of it is just simply things that, things like mounting switch machines or mounting electronics or helping the wiring and that kind of thing. So we'll be going through that.
Yeah, no spoilers now.
That's right. I don't want to go through the whole
thing. We're not going to do spoilers. Let's pick up Dave here. Dave, what are you using technology for in the hobby?
I am vice president and general scapegoat at Silicon Valley Lines. And we end up being a club that does a lot of operations, but we also are often finding ourselves on the bleeding edge of technology.
Very good.
Yep.
And Seth, you have a whole business that's about technology in the hobby, don't you?
I do. I operate Model Railroad Control Systems, a proud sponsor of TSG.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and happy to support your good work. And my tagline is electronics for operations. So We do all sorts of things, switch motors, telephone systems, layout control systems, and a whole collection of accessories. Last 6 months, since in the motor business, we've been handling DCC controlled motors from MTB. I've gotten interested in low-end DCC systems, and I just came back from the St. Louis RPM and Chattanooga MRA shows, where there was quite a bit of information about those. And if we have enough time, we'll do a little demo and show you some goodies. They're not necessarily my products, but just things of, I think, a lot of interest to the community.
Oh, cool stuff. So we're going to bring in now Heath. You know Heath from Humanity Junction. Here's Heath. Hi, Heath. How you doing?
This is a recording. This is not live.
Yeah, right. And we're going to bring in James Brassill also, who I know from Silicon Valley Lines. He's just a little tiny head at the bottom of the screen. Hi, James.
It's hard to look up and down at the same time.
How are you doing today?
All right.
Good. So why don't you go, Heath, since you're also like a tech guy, right? I mean, you do a lot of technology stuff.
Yeah, I would say a pretty good tech user, not a very good tech user, but if there is a more complicated way to do something, I will try and use technology to make things as complicated as possible.
Oh, we
And
lost your audio.
and John is muted. Well, James, why don't you talk about what you do with technology while John is trying to figure out his microphone?
A couple things: 3D printing, breaking JMRI in weird and interesting ways to get it to do what I want, since it's this big open system. Lately, I've been doing some use of AI stuff because I just don't have the time right now to program what I need to program. Well, I learn all programming. So the cool thing about that is, it can go and find all of these API things that, it would take me hours upon hours. And then going through the code, you end up learning something. So, yeah, AI, 3D printing, DCC systems, all of that.
Very cool.
I think AI is the new 3D printing.
Yeah.
I think 3D printing was going to destroy the hobby, and now they think AI is going to destroy the hobby. So,
well, something will destroy the hobby, but it won't be my fault. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
now.
Yeah, that was my fault. I had messed something up. So,
Sent yourself to the basement.
yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what happened. Was I sent myself to the basement. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, and of course, we have our comments on the live chat on the side of the screen there, and people can certainly add their, what they're doing with technology as well. And since we're all here now, why don't we get on with what we're going to talk about? And who wants to go first? You want me to just bring up your PDF first there?
Sure.
Okay, let's bring this up and let's see what Murph's been doing.
Okay. Can you all still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as I said before, my use of 3D printers is not really for printing free train cars or free engines or that kind of stuff. I've rarely actually used it to model anything that's actually on top of the layout. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So as I said, my first project was taking a scale trains engine, and I put tsunamis in all my engines because my whole stable of engines is pretty much tsunamis. And so I got the bare scale trains engine, which came with no speakers. So I ended up making a thing to hold 2 speakers facing both sides out the long hood. And I went fairly extravagantly with wire pathing through here and everything else. And since I had 3 of them, it was really easy just to duplicate it a couple times and get everything wired in. My other thing is, since basically at home, I work alone a lot at home because I live way out in the boonies. Actually, I live about 2 miles from James, but other than that, I live in the boonies. And so putting in things like tortoises and that kind of stuff, I don't know, if you've ever done it as one person, it can be rather difficult. So I made a tortoise mounting system that was based on a system started by John Plocker, who works with Seth.
Oh, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, and he does a lot of cool technology stuff, but he had an idea for doing that, and I've refined it a bit. So basically what it is, it has an insert. You'll notice on the top left picture, basically I've cut a slot for this insert. It's a black plastic insert that has chamfered sides, and you'll notice it has a pipe going down. That pipe is where the actuating rod for either a tortoise or a DP10 actually can go up. And I've made it so that it's not round, but it actually has two flat sides, so that when I push it in, you can almost see it here, and there'll be a better picture down the way. I put a plate in on the bottom that's basically shaped like the tortoise template, and I can put 2 screws in the back. You'll see them by my thumb there. And
That's the picture on the right.
Yeah, that's the picture on the right. And that holds the tortoise in long enough to get a third mounting tortoise in to actually hold everything up. This is a yard-based version of it where I don't need the slanted thing to actually match the road bed. I mount it flat into the actual yard. And you'll notice that the hole itself allows for the sway back and forth of the actuating rod, whichever kind of switch machine I use. And you can see now on the bottom right how the plate that's on the bottom, because there's the 2 flat sides to the mounting hole, will keep the mounting of the switch machine perpendicular so that it goes crosswise to the direction of travel to the mounting rod. Another installation, I had my bench work primarily built by a carpenter friend of mine while I was working my last couple of years at Apple. And I failed to explain to him that a 2x4 directly under a main line was not optimal. And so I had this point where I had a switch that basically needed to go where there was a 2x4 underneath.
Oops.
So I played around with mounting a servo fairly flat, and basically the servo fits in a width of plywood on the benchwork. And so I made a mounting place for the actual servo, and there's a rod that goes crossways on from that. And it was being able to 3D print this was really useful. The other thing, as I said before, I'm really kind of lazy. I hate putting standoffs underneath electronics. Every time I try to put the little stupid loops into things and put a screw in, one of the standoffs goes running off somewhere else. So I made these brackets in a program called OpenSCAD that basically are rectangular posts that fit underneath electronics. In this case, you'll see there's 4 PSXs there. And each of those little X things has 2 posts diagonally that have nubs that stick up. So they slot the card in, and then two of them that have holes. So I just put in the 2 screws and it's in. This makes laying out an electronics panel really fast.
It looks more organized too.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people painstakingly draw on this, where they're going to put the mounting posts and everything else. I just slap them down and screw them in. It's really kind of useful. And the thing is, using OpenSCAD, I've made it parametric. And that means that I can mount other things on the boards as well. Over on the left side here, you can see, I believe that's a switch 8. And basically I just measured hole to hole on the switch 8, made one of those things. We mount that on a little piece of MDF, and we've been using a lot of these at the train club at SVL. We mount it on the board here, and then we go underneath the benchwork, and you'll notice on the MDF there's just a big hole there. We use a dry roll screw to hold the circuit underneath the layout. We used to have a whole bunch, we still have a bunch of switches just dangling underneath the layout. Now we can actually fix them in there really easily. We can also take them down if we actually have to do any work on putting wires on there. On the right there is a Wago holder. Dave turned me on to Wagos. I think he brought them over from his robot influence there. And if you can go back to that for a sec, it's a double Wago holder, because basically if you have a train bus, you bring the train bus in on the bottom side of this and you have it go out on the top side of this, and that gives you 3 more connections to put drops into the Wagos. And this is really handy. It's great for debugging things. If you have a short in the line down the way, it's really easy just to loosen up the Wagos, open it up and pull a wire, and you can isolate problems really, really quickly. So here's one where we actually put all of that into use. This is a module I got from a friend that used to have probably about 20 wires going back and forth before. And this is using, let me see, those are the MP5s, I think, Seth, from you? These are from Griffey's layout.
Yeah, it was from Griffey, there were 5s.
Yeah, and it uses a DB8 board. So on the upper left, you can see the X thing. That's where I'm going to mount the DB8. And then there is a bus coming along the bottom of the board where, the DCC bus comes along and goes into the Wagos, and then 2 lines go over to the DB8 to feed the signal into that board and control it.
The bus is the green wire?
The bus for me is a green and white wire because I'm unconventional that way. The next thing John's talking about quite a bit is my masks. I do one for doing wheels and another one for doing trucks. The alligator looking thing in the upper right of the thing, actually you slot in a truck and it shows the side frames and it keeps the interior of them basically clear. And it's really easy to do a whole bunch of them all at once. You don't really want the Delrin black side of the truck, the back side of it, to get paint on it because it'll actually cause a friction with the axles of the wheels. For the wheel mask on the left-hand side, I made wheel masks to match every size wheel that I have. I have 4 different wheel masks. And basically you just measure the diameter of the wheel and you slot in the thing. I had originally just tried making some out of styrene and using a drill press with a drill bit, and had the experience of having the styrene card go all helicopter and nearly take my fingers off. And so the 3D approach is much cleaner and much easier to deal with.
Work holding's really important.
Yes, exactly. This is another thing. A lot of you have seen my old DCC in a box, which was a power cab and a big toolbox and that kind of thing. I wanted to have something that was really, really portable. Plus I wanted to play with a new idea I had. And I call this the power cab rack box. And again, this is an OpenSCAD design. And you'll notice in the open thing, there's basically 2 boards on there, again, with the mounting for the offsets. One for the power cab PCP board, and the other one's for the USB to power cab connector. And they slot into rails in this little box. And then when you sew it all up, the front of the box has the power cab connectors and also the USB connector, and the power and the track power go out the back. Because I did this with OpenSCAD, it's easy to expand this. And if you wanted to have a 4-slot box for whatever reason, David mentioned, gee, you should put a Raspberry Pi in this box too. And you could easily do that if you really wanted to. Then I've been lately doing a few things around the layout, as I've actually finally had some visitors to the layout for my birthday.
Happy birthday, Bert.
Thank you. I found somebody that actually had a nice way of making labels for the layout. And so I use that. It uses OpenSCAD as well, so it's really easy just to type in the name. It uses the 2D extrusion portions of OpenSCAD, which I've never used before. And I've got a 4-color printer, and it was fairly easy to just say, make the letters yellow so they stand out. Along with that, I've made a box pattern for the side of the layout. You'll see on the left here, I just have one for uncoupling picks. And then I made ones for holding up iPhones. I use iPhones instead of iPads for basically switching sidings. You can see them up on the upper right. Basically, they're just a little slot that the iPhones fit into.
And that's connected through JMRI, or how does that?
Yeah, the iPhones all connect through JMRI, and I've made panels for each of the sidings that I have. Blues are on the bottom, blue panel, the left-hand iPhone, and reds are on for the upper level. It's my color coding. The other thing is I made some quick and easy, just end of track bumpers, because I've had occasions in the past where I haven't put a temporary end of track bumper on the layout, and trains don't fly real well. They can do it once. So anyway, that's solved that problem for me. So you see the little yellow bumpers on the bottom. And then last, this is really just kind of weirdness. This is a programming track bollard. I have a portion of my layout with a switch between the main Power Pro system, and it can switch in a power cab. And we had a long discussion online about how you really don't want to have anything being programmed and leaked over to the main line with the Power Pro and have any kind of accidental conflicts or programming other engines. And so I use a tortoise to be a double pole, double throw switch that switches between the power cab and the main Power Pro system, but also just as a little extra thing to keep an engine from straying across the gap between the left side being the power cab side and the right side being my main layout. I actually put up a little bollard when the power cab is enabled so that it can't actually do that crossing. And those pieces, the black insert and the yellow bollard that pop up, were both 3D printed. Fairly simple project there. And that's it. That's everything that I've done so far.
Right. So now I should mention also that at some point we'll probably do little short videos to show people these things in action, because I think they're interesting enough. And this is what I meant when I said people use the technology of 3D printing for something other than what you might think. And I'm reminded of, and by the way, yes, James, the train did censor Murph. You should have heard what he said.
Yeah. No, it was awful.
Oh, yeah. But
It said Gridfinity about 12 times.
Gridfinity?
Yeah, I actually didn't get into that part of my hobby.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
What's Gridfinity?
It's a system for making organizers for drawers and desktops and all sorts of things.
Okay.
It's
This
great.
might take up the next 45 minutes of the conversation. Be careful.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll try not to do that.
That's why they blew the horn.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, I was going to say that that's an express train, by the way. I don't know if people can hear this, but we're at the Santa Clara Depot live today, and this is rush hour for the trains. So every, 10 minutes, we're going to get trains either making a stop here or blasting through because Caltrain, it's rush hour.
We're lucky
Yeah,
enough to be
ambiance.
here. We're lucky enough to be here when we need a supersized studio to be able to hold more people for the live show.
Yes, if we had done this from the TSG Intergalactic headquarters, we'd be sitting this close to each other, and it would be even hotter because we're sitting this close to each other. But I was going
All
to say,
four of
Dave,
you
you
on
wanna
the
sit
same
by
couch.
No.
She said all four of you on the same couch.
yeah, that would be real fun. So what I was going to say is I'm reminded, Murph, of your use of the 3D printing reminds me of something that Jack Burgess did, which was Jack Burgess would create out of styrene jigs for stuff that he had to, bend wires 100 times, 100 wires or whatever, because he was building something, or maybe, a special jig for building a bridge or a trestle or something like that. That's what that reminds me of.
That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I'm compared to Jack Burgess, it's a great time. So
Yeah, right.
Or Jeff Bridges.
Yeah,
Jeff
that too,
Bridges.
yeah.
Yeah. The dude. Yeah. Murph Bridges. What about, maybe we should go to one of the remote guys. Let's bring the remote guys back. There they are. One of you guys should go with what you're doing with technology.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's wise bringing us back, but Just because Murph was talking a little bit about 3D printing, I can mention a couple things that I've been doing myself. I put off getting a 3D printer for a long time because I thought it was kind of a gimmick and not something that I would really use, being in N scale especially. I'm not really going to be 3D printing a lot of N scale items on my layout. But I did. Well, so I am in a very small room with no running water. And it's basically an office. I don't live in a room with no running water. It's just the office I'm in doesn't have running water. So getting a resin printer, which could print at N scale and get some pretty fine detail, just really wasn't an option for me. So I had to go with a filament printer. But like Murph, a lot of what I'm printing isn't on top of the layout. It's actually stuff for either, in my case, the edge of the layout or under the layout or just various other elements of the layout. So just dumb little things like I printed this little cup holder. And all of this stuff that I've printed are things that clip onto my car card boxes. So I don't like cup holders just, on the layout everywhere, but people do like having drinks when they operate. So this way they can have a cup holder that's removable, but, clips into the layout wherever they want. Just like Murph, I've got my, little iPhone holders that probably aren't nearly as nice as his. This is a modification of a 3D print I found online by one of the other panelists that are here. And I just modified it so that it would hang over the car card box. And I have a, makeshift little throttle holder that can go anywhere on the layout. So I think 3D printing's definitely kind of changed the way, I look at certain aspects of the hobby and allow me to, make things quickly and easily, in my little office, my little layout room.
Heath, I think I like the throttle holder better because I would probably be busy drinking my beer. I wouldn't want to put it down.
I mean, it is nice to have a spot to just, put the throttle right next to where your drink is. And then you could, just go back and forth really easily.
I especially like the removable cup holders because that's the kind of thing where when people are there, it's nice to have. But when you're actually wandering around and working on the layout, I would knock into that thing so many times it would drive me crazy. So I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm going to steal that one.
And if you design a good one, feel free to pass it my way. What I mentioned earlier, kind of jokingly, but I'm an okay user at this stuff. But a lot of this is just, I found a cup online, I found a bracket online, I chopped it up into pieces and kind of glued it together digitally, and then printed it out and ended up with something that is very functional, but it's not it's not like high-tech design, magic or anything like that. It's just some guy that doesn't know what they're doing, gluing a bunch of things together and calling themselves a modeler.
Someone's saying there's a few people saying you got to show them the bridge. What are they talking about?
George Washington Bridge.
Yeah, so way back there in the corner, and I don't have a camera set up to show it, so you might not really be able to see it really well. But one of the things that I've been trying to do is figure out how to show distance between two different areas of my layout. From basically right here to right here is 132 miles. So I wanted some sort of view block to kind of indicate that, and I couldn't really figure out what best to do. And then I realized, well, that's where the George Washington Bridge would be. So during one of my live streams, I basically took, a file I found online and I scaled it to what would fit on the layout. It's actually, I think I worked it out 2.6 times smaller than it should be if it was actually in N scale. But at the height that it's at, it's about 18 inches tall or something like that. It fits nicely. It acts as a nice view block, and it very clearly indicates where you are on the layout. And that was something that 3D printing kind of allowed me to do quickly. And what's there now is a placeholder. I do at some point want to, print it out a little bit nicer and, a little bit more carefully. But just getting something mocked up and in place, for me at least, it really helps with the operations on the layout because it gives operators a sense of where they are in space.
Yeah, I saw it I think it's on Facebook, isn't it? Where you
There's
posted
pictures on Facebook as well, yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. I like that a lot.
Yep.
It sounds like a great solution too, because
Yeah.
you're not only doing your view block, but you're sort of compressing those miles into something that's recognizable.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got, there's other pieces of, I guess you would say, home technology on my layout that are really impressive that were done by friends. I have a 3D printer. I don't have a laser printer, but like there is a full scale, well, not full scale, but to scale model of the IRT powerhouse that was laser cut. I've got, 2 other buildings over there that were, custom laser cut, and they're all specific buildings in the actual area. And using a laser cutter, I don't know if people know what that is or not, but using a laser cutter, they were able to basically cut thin pieces of wood into very detailed shapes, and by layering them up, was able to make very complicated architectural shapes. So that was also a really neat addition to the layout because they were able to make them at the specific sizes that I needed to fit the available areas on my layout.
I think that's a clever use.
That's cool.
Yeah. Wow, you're smarter than I thought, Heath.
Well, I know smart people, and I know how to convince smart people to help me. Which I guess
you mean like getting them on your show with you?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's something to bring up as well. What I love about technology in this hobby is that there are people that are incredibly smart and incredibly brilliant at what they do, and they're willing to share it. And that is something that has been invaluable to me. I mean, at some point we'll probably talk more about things like JMRI and that kind of stuff. And there are communities out there for, all of the different areas of model railroading that are willing to help and support these, insane kind of projects that you come up with, but to help bring them to life because, we're all just kind of excited to see neat things on model railroads.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, what about you, Dave? We're going to have to come to you at some point.
Sure. I didn't bring any show and tell items, but like I said, at Silicon Valley Lines, we are a bunch of nerds who, for the most part, get paid to do technology development all day long. And as a result, if we haven't gotten that out of our system during the day, then we still go to the train room and the train club and try to use technology to make running trains better. I always joke that when I was a little kid, I saw a thing when I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and my dad was a professor, and it said something about electrical engineering. And I just assumed that was a professional model train guy. And so I told everybody, I'm going to be an electrical engineer. And in my head, they were like, oh, that's very impressive. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I can't believe you can get paid for playing with model trains. It turns out that was not really what electrical engineering or computer engineering was really all about. But everything I learned in school, everything I do, I always think of, hey, how can I use this to make trains better? I have been playing with lots of different technology for a really long time. The thing that we kind of did very early on at Silicon Valley Lines was we initially had control panels all over our layout, and they were, hand drilled acrylic with, color prints between them and push buttons and LEDs to show the routes. and we operated pretty much all the time. And over a couple of years, all the push buttons broke. And we spent so much time fixing the redacted push buttons that by around 2010, all of a sudden there were things called iPads, and there were crazy internet protocols for connecting tablets to computers and putting JavaScript software into web pages. And we replaced, so now instead of replacing broken push buttons and fixing loose wires, we now debug software and deal with problems in the digital space. So it has had a really good thing happen, because we're in a club where we have a fair amount of turnover and areas of the club get redone. And when an area has a super complicated control panel, everybody's like, oh, I'm not even going to touch that. Whereas once the panel's in software, it ends up being more malleable. That said, there's really only a couple people that know how to make the software to make the panels work. It's a crazy combination of Inkscape SVG files, JMRI, hand-coded JavaScript. I mean, I don't recommend it. It's not a product that other people could use, but it's been a pretty interesting distraction. But it has then meant it enabled us to do something actually really crazy during COVID. And that was because the entire layout, all the turnouts and detection was accessible over the internet, it meant that Murph, who was our dispatcher, could dispatch from 20-something miles away up in the mountains. And we could then also have people using web cameras and JMRI throttles drive trains with an engineer's eye view out the front. And so we were able to operate. Bernard Beck, who unfortunately we lost in the early 2020s, he and I collaborated along with James and some other folks to develop a remote operation system. Again, not a product, more of a labor of love to try to make sure we could still operate through the pandemic.
It's in JMRI now, though, with decent instructions. I probably need to
update the
it.
Webcam support. Yeah, and there's a bunch of different options for doing that. We actually put flat cars with Raspberry Pi Zeros and cameras, and basically full on overkill where every train had a Linux computer riding along, which I, again, do not recommend for most people, but for nerds, it was a pretty good thing to do.
Professional driver on closed course. Do not attempt this at home.
Sudo apt.
Well,
yeah,
it's that old saying of just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah,
and that applies to a lot of the things that you guys have done.
And we wrote our own operation software.
Yeah.
So before JMRI Ops existed, one of our members wrote a gigantic program called SwitchSir that the whole optimization of that software was to make sure that as many cars moved around the layout and trains never looked the same. The problem with that is that was the optimization, that was the plan, but it didn't mean that like operating sessions had to be smooth and that trains had to meet at good places, because it was all like, oh, let's shuffle the deck and make sure everybody's cars get a chance to run as the number one thing. So it's not as much fun being a yard master when you're looking for every car by car number and have no idea where it is. And then everybody says, oh, you can just add RFID or UWB, and then you can find where all the cars are. And it's like, stop, breathe. Model railroading is fun. It's not work, because you can create a ton of work. But anyway, lots of fun things. I mean, maybe I'll pass it off to James to talk about how we had an atypical DCC system. We started out with NCE. We had 2 command stations, one for accessory bus, one for throttles. Then we added a LocoNet interface to do signaling and detection. And then James joins the club and kind of really liked LCC. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to James, and you can talk about what we've been doing lately.
Well, honestly, I had no idea about LCC when I first started. That was all Dakota, who kind of moved our signaling system to that. He developed a board on his own and for LCC. So with this system, we moved our signaling from DCC. I think there was some LocoNet, then it went to DCC, then it went to LCC. And I really had no idea when I started. The pandemic had just hit. Dakota had to moved home to New York, actually, not that far away from Heath, if I remember correctly. But over the years, I've just kind of learned that system. And really recently, we've decided to move our main command station for the throttles over to the TCS CS105. And with the way that they created that system years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago when they came out with this thing, they decided to make it very similar to NCE's command station. And it more or less has kind of just been a drop-in replacement that gets us a whole heck of a lot of flexibility now, and a really robust LCC controller. One of the fun things that I've actually been doing, and I say fun with a little bit of sarcasm there, is we didn't think about the fact when we replaced this main command station that consisting is completely different. Like, we can use CV19 and whatnot, but then you have to, I think, know the consist ID number to control the trains. And I realized late Friday night, after we put this thing in, that we'd have to enter all of our consists manually into the CS105 with the throttle, because as far as I could tell, there was no way to do it with JMRI. So actually, that was one of the reasons that I spun up Claude, and I had it figure out how to make it so that we can enter our 127. I think that was part of the issue, is we hit the max amount of consists in the NCE system, which is 127. So we had to figure out how to quickly enter 127 consists into the CS105 on only a Friday night. You can do that via the throttle, and it takes 5 minutes or something like that per engine. But with this new script, it takes about 30 seconds. So that's one of the things that we've been doing lately. But with all things, there's multiple ways to run these systems. But recently, we've moved over to the CS105.
Yeah, we really use JMRI as the glue between a bunch of disparate systems. So we have NCE, accessory decoders, and accessory bus, this TCS CS105 command station with an LCC network. And JMRI then glues all that together. And then we have a set of web pages that then can talk to JMRI to manipulate or report the status of the layout. So when Murph dispatches, he surfs into a web page and clicks on turnouts and lights and other things, and it's all on the web.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've run into is with our limited time being a club, most of us only being there on Fridays, we run a non-traditional LCC signaling system. So there's actually a script that runs on our layout computer that actually controls all of our signals, as opposed to a more commercial setup like RR circuits where everything is done on the board itself. So that's one of the ways that JMRI is just that big glue ball that keeps everything running. It does most of the translation for a lot of that stuff.
Python, JavaScript, and Java.
Mm-hmm.
And Java and JavaScript have nothing to do with each other. They just named it JavaScript because Java was kind of the bee's knees in the late 90s.
Yeah, it was cool at the time.
Well, there's a question though. For me, when I'm working with JMRI at home, it works really well when it works, if you know what I mean. Do you have that problem at SVL where you have to restart something because JMRI just kind of stopped working?
Generally, no. We don't. We make use of the JMRI infrastructure. The JMRI JMRIX layer, the lower level, which is the glue to the command stations, but we generally don't use, our panels are not run from Panel Pro.
Oh,
They are custom web pages that talk to the WebSocket interface on JMRI.
so you're not taxing JMRI.
We're not taxing JMRI. We're not using these big, giant, semi-amateur. And I was a contributor at one point. So, and there are large, big Java programs that they were everybody's first Java programs back in the 90s. And we know a lot more. We have not gone ahead and like unleashed Claude or Codex or anything like that on our stuff yet. But there's a lot of mistakes that have been made.
Other than, as James just said, you made a translator for the concepts.
Mhm.
And actually, it's kind of funny because Heath the other day on Facebook said, "What's worse, AI or negative attitudes?" And I was kind of like, I have an example that somebody's doing with AI that's saving our behind." And James just pulled this out. And I'm like, okay, he's our AI wrench guy.
Well, let me
And I love that.
just add something though. I run a layout with actually CMRI hardware and JMRI writing on top of that is the hardware abstraction layer. And on top of that, there's an application called CATS. And we've been running this since 2013, so 13 years. And it's quite solid. It's, perhaps twice, which might be 50 or 60 operating sessions over that time, have we ever needed to stop and restart the JMRI computer. And at least one of them was a power glitch, commercial power issue that, partially reset the layout. So if you're careful.
I think the biggest thing is the hardware you're interfacing with your JMRI computer has to be somewhat solid. And CMRI is. This LCC box, the new one we just got, seems to be nice and solid. The LocoNet we had was iffy. The old LCC connection we had was really iffy. And those would cause startup problems. And if you just have a system like my LCC or DCC in a box that I pull out and then I plug my computer in and check and let's all get running, sometimes that doesn't necessarily start up really good because it's a temporary setup. But boy, if you have an installed layout, you really want it to just be, I flip the switch on, things work, life's good. So,
Yeah, and I think there are, you can be careful about the programming, and certainly some of the systems that attempt to do self-discovery will start out with kind of a flood of traffic that can create problems.
Yeah.
There may be sequencing issues that certain things need to get done first. One thing I've done on some CMRI, JMRI installations I've done for clients is to run a startup sketch, which runs around the layout and sets all your turnouts to a known state, checking
Right.
to make sure there's no locomotive sitting on top of a turnout.
Yeah.
And
Gee, we've heard
you know
something.
that
I heard
one.
something
Yeah.
about that last week.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
a way you can start fires too, I think.
I
well,
hear it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you do things like that and use some common sense about not leaving the layout unattended, I think you can have very robust performance where these things start up and you really don't have any real concern about, the computer crashing and embarrassing you in the middle of an op session. I mean,
right.
That's really pretty rare.
I'm also I'm gonna throw some shade because the software that we're running on our layout is Unix based. So we either have Linux stuff running, which is basically industrial strength, or we actually have Macs running Mac OS 10. And so we don't have to deal with Windows update happening on a Wednesday night in the middle of the week, messing something up for Friday.
Nice shade. I like that.
So, but it's all good. The open source stuff is really important. There was a question that I saw fling by about Bluetooth. And one of the more interesting things about Bluetooth is it's very cool for kind of temporary home layouts. It's very cool for some things. But one of the things that kind of is unfortunate about the current state of Bluetooth and model railroading is it's proprietary. And so there is no opportunity for JMRI to talk to a Bluetooth decoder. There's at least one vendor or two vendors, depending on how you count. They're all based on the same technology. It would be really great if there was some way to control stuff from another app. Maybe they can create app intents for their their app or other things. But it means that things that nerds want to do around automation with Bluetooth can't happen yet. There's a couple Wi-Fi based throttles as well. There's one developed by a local guy. It only runs on Android, so I don't have an Android. It also doesn't use an open protocol. When it comes to doing things, what has worked really well in the model railroading community is an aggressive use of open source, so that even if the people who came up with something to begin with drop dead or stop being model railroaders, somebody will pick it up and fix it.
So Dave, why don't you speak a little bit about the infrastructure open source typically has and why that's important, particularly in a club environment?
The big thing for open source is, we initially built our own web-based control software because there was a lawsuit involving JMRI, and we were like, oh man, we're not going to go anywhere near that. We're not going to be in open source. We're not going to do anything. And then what happens is you end up in a club where, if you are lucky enough to have younger members at beginnings of their careers who have spare time, spare time. They don't have girlfriends or significant others yet, so they have time to do recreational programming, or they don't have kids yet. But what happens in a club is somebody pours their life into something for 6 or 9 months, and then all of a sudden they get downsized or they get reorged and they move across the country. The person that built our signal output boards moved from the Bay Area to New York City. New York City, yeah, home of bad salsa. Sorry,
Ours are made in El Paso.
There is good salsa in New York City too. My family's from New York.
You really have to go look for it.
Anyway, by having that code be open source, it meant that we could pick it up. It meant that it didn't go away when somebody's laptop went away. It meant that the software didn't become unsupportable when somebody died.
And it means that it was generally living on open source servers like
Linux
GitHub that were generally accessible.
Or back in the day, SourceForge.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it is interesting. It makes it a little less brittle to the individuals, because we all know we're all great people and never screw up. A fine example of open source working out really well is there was an Arduino system called DCC++ a couple of years ago, and it was a one-man band that did it, and it was very cool, and everybody was like, wow, I can build a DCC system for like less than $100. This is amazing. And then all of a sudden they kind of had life show up, and they stopped supporting it because it became too successful for one person to keep supporting. And a whole collection of people from all over the world, some of them in Australia, some of them in New Zealand, some of them in the UK, some of them right here in the United States, reinvigorated the project and created something called DCCEX, which I know Seth has one of these around, and it's very cool. Oh, you can't see it on
you
the
got to bring it over this way.
No, it's right. It's right here.
It's right there.
Oh, there you go.
It's right there.
So what is that?
Show it to that camera.
The iPhone.
DC?
Yeah.
What is it?
This is a DCCEX. This is a complete DCC system with a 5-amp booster, a programming track, a Wi-Fi server so you can talk to it with Y throttle or a UWT throttle.
In that tiny box?
In that tiny box.
Oh.
And the retail price all in is about $160.
That's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Now, coming back to something Murph and James were talking about earlier, this is a 3D printed case. So what's very cool about this as a custom enclosure, so you can get all the stuff you want on that small board. You can see it's a little smaller than a pack of cards. And, you know, there's vents in it for ventilation. There's place for a display. There's cutouts for the various connectors. And you can do all this and not have to be constrained by commercially available box. I have a couple other products here that are doing similar stuff.
I want to hear about those sunglasses, Seth.
The sunglasses.
Yeah, well, tell me about those.
The sunglasses are Maui Jims, which I had been coveting for years. And my wife and I took a vacation to Maui a year and a half ago. And, you know, we did kind of the obligatory beach vacation day that we went shopping and spent way too much money for stuff we could have got at home. And I got a pair of Maui Jims on Maui. That's the story.
And
Wow.
and they don't have a camera, but
But they're very cool.
but they do allow you to operate as the coolest operator
Oh, I see.
at a
That's,
session.
that's the rub is you get to be the cool
Absolutely. The
Okay.
coolness is important. Anyway,
guy. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I had a squirrel moment with the
so
glasses.
the key thing here is Dave says, a good idea was partially developed, was overtaken by life events. And because it was open source and it was available to people who are interested in it, a group of people, 20 or 30, I think, from all over the world were able to come together and work on it collaboratively. And they've really beat almost all the problems of the early version out. Dave was kind enough to help me implement the earlier version, and we were using it for testing in support of DCC controlled motors. And it was fine as far as it went, but one thing led to another, and there's a bunch of parts in a box somewhere under the layout yet to be found.
It started out as a very, very nerdy project, but then the interesting thing is you could buy an Arduino, buy a motor shield, and for about, at the time, $60 and your time, which is probably not free, but everybody forgets that, you could build your own DCC system. So the CSB1, they kind of put everything on one board. They offer up these 3D printed cases, so it becomes a little more accessible. It is still very much a nerd focused thing. Like you can write automation programs. They have their own language called EXRail. You don't need a separate computer to run it, yada, yada, yada. There are people building their own bespoke throttles. So it's its whole hobby into itself, kind of like 3D printing. So there are people who work on this that actually have like 3 engines and a piece and some Unitrack, but they are like very engrossed in making it better for other people. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it really is. Here, we'll just back it up again. The one thing I want to say about that is, yeah,
We have a
ran it right off the back of the track.
Prototypical.
Yeah, exactly. You
I
can
get
get
you some
yourself
yellow bumpers.
in proto
Yeah,
trouble.
he prints 3D prints bumpers for the end of the track.
What we should do is remember those cups. He's going to need one for the P test for running.
That's
for
right.
running
Yeah,
off the tracks.
yeah, a rack of pee in a bottle 3 days
Yeah.
off.
On my test tracks, I basically,
Yeah, there you go.
I make a replica coupler height.
Is this a family
gauge.
show?
No, yes.
Doing it.
All right.
Sorry. But I did want to say one more
So
thing.
that's only an
about-
hour later.
about DCCX. All that said, I plugged this thing in and had it running in about 2 minutes last night.
Well, here too.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the first time ever. I had never had it running before. I came home, found an appropriate power supply, plugged it in, found an old piece of test track, and this is old.
It looks old.
It says Railcraft under it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fiber
We have
tags.
these nice little connectors that just pull out with screw terminals. Secured the wires to it, put it down, acquired it on my phone, and away you go. So for an entry-level DCC system, it's not too bad. If you want to go beyond the most basic thing, as Dave said, you're on the slippery slope to nerddom, but it's quite powerful for the price.
How big of a layout could you hook that thing up to and get away with it?
Oh, a garage-sized one?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can get a slightly larger top piece and put a second motor shield, motor motor drivers are actually good for driving DCC chunks of layouts. And you'd have 3 5-amp boosters for driving the layout plus a programming track. That would be adequate for like a double track 800-foot layout. That would be a pretty good size layout in any part of the country. It'd be huge here.
So how's that affecting, or will that affect companies like NCE or Digitrax that are making these systems? Because I know a lot of people don't go to DCC because of how expensive it is.
Well, I think if you're very cost sensitive and you're not trying to get too tricky with the DCC system, so you don't really have to engage with the programming language and all these advanced features. But remember, that's an alternative to JMRI that same person wouldn't want to engage with anyway. It's perfectly viable. I mean, you can't be afraid of electricity or terrified of computers, but you don't really have to do much.
Question for Seth.
Oh, there's a question for Seth. You know, Heath, you can ask him live, right? You can just chime in here. I think we can still hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was just noting, Seth, that you were using your iPhone to control a locomotive, which I've actually been seeing more and more at op sessions lately is people just using their iPhones.
Well, I think that's valid. I really love these UWT series throttles, but they are serious money. The basic one's around, what, 230 list, and this one is around 300. But, I go to a lot of operating meets, and I would say at this point about half the layouts I encounter have some sort of Wi-Fi server. And I'll put a little plug in for Wi-Fi tracks because I'm a dealer of Wi-Fi tracks. This is again, 3D printed case around a little module. That's a Wi-Fi server. It plugs into an NCE system. And with that, I can support 4 users. That's expandable with UWTs or phones. Could be iPhones, can be Androids. We don't say that around Dave too much with Engine Driver. And a lot of people like those throttles. To me, the biggest part is not, this is a very, very nice throttle, and big props to the guys who designed it. They really did a good job. But the bigger thing to me going to an op session is that it's my throttle. I know where everything is. I don't have to look at it and go, oh, how do you do it on a UT6? Oh, right. This one's an NCE Pro Cab. Oh, this guy is still using an older version of CVP's throttle. They're all nice throttles, but there's a certain amount of muscle memory in doing this. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and there's demand from my customers, and locally I just bought a bunch of these and did a try it, you'll like it with most of the hosts that I operate with recently, and everybody's doing it. I've not had one come back.
Well, we should mention that, Seth, since you're on here and since you're a sponsor of the program, and you said you can get it, from me, and you're a dealer and all that, but we should mention that modelrailroadcontrolsystems.com.
Right, and I will put these up. These are called Wi-Fi tracks, WFD 30 and 31. I like the 31 myself because, can we see that? Yeah, it's visible. This little white 3D printed plate, I'm not sure the lettering shows up that well.
Can you hold it a little bit lower?
Sure.
There you go.
Effectively replaces an NCE universal bus connector. And it's got the through connectors on the back for the control bus and 2 sockets for wired connectors. And of course it's Wi-Fi, and it doesn't interfere with the existing NCE DCC. So very nice little product. We'll have that up in the next day or two. And then also working with the same people for pure Wi-Fi applications. This is an 8-position remote control switch motor controller for MP series motors, which I sell. So this is really handy if you like DC motors rather than DCC controlled motors, and you want to control them off your DCC bus. So that's a very cool thing. And again, speaks to the versatility of being able to use 3D printing to make an enclosure that allows you to have a unique and compact product with, all the holes and indicators and connectors where you want them. And that's a huge thing.
3D printing for an application like that is just so much better than using an off-the-shelf product or project box. Nothing against them. Like TCS, they used a good one, but they have limitations. You have to put things where they want you to put them versus designing your own case for it. You put that stuff wherever it fits, and you end up with a smaller product most of the time too.
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. Some of the CAD programs, AutoCAD for sure, if you're doing circuit board design and you use a parts file that knows the physical dimensions of it, will quite happily generate a box for you that you can then customize. So, that process is fairly easy using, I would call those medium end commercial products. It's not the real fancy stuff that only a big company could afford.
Yeah, it's hard to hear because there's a train outside making a bunch of noise.
And I'm an old guy and have to turn my hearing aids up too.
You need one of those little horn things, like in the cartoons.
Yeah, I can turn that up, but then I get more of the train, so that's painful.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to mention, which I think is pretty cool, is that people are in the hobby are being clever enough to use platforms, I'm going to call them, that really are made for other things, right? Like controlling your home automation or whatever. And they're implementing these in their layouts, which does a couple of things. One, it gets the job done, whatever you're trying to do. But the second thing is, because it's a larger market, you can rest assured that it's probably going to be around and will be supported in the future and get upgraded and updates and stuff like that. And I think that's something that people really need to pay attention to, because if you can piggyback off of some other technology, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Yeah, if I can riff off that for a second.
Sure. Do we need to show the phone again?
No, this is a little
The phone.
different.
Yeah, that's a phone.
Yeah, that's the phone.
That's the phone.
Let's see if we can get that up.
Oh, your phone.
My phone. That's a phone.
So
camera, yeah.
this is, some of you may be aware that I make a line of CMRI compatible boards based on a little newer technology than the original design Dr. Chubb did. And they're all interchangeable, so you don't have to throw the old stuff away. This is a prototype of our newest version. And what's unique about it is this little chip over here has considerably more memory than what we've been using. And it also has Wi-Fi built in.
The one next to your middle finger?
The one next to my middle finger, yes. The one that I'm always giving you, John.
Right. The one with the white on it. That chip.
Yeah, that one here.
Yeah.
It's
Now it's your ring finger.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, it's called the Xiao.
Zhao.
ZIAO.
XIA.
XIAO. And Xiao is really designed for use in these Internet of Things applications. So we'll start off, just running the CMRI protocol as we always did, but we're also going to support, among other things, the Internet of Things MQTT set of protocols. And GMRI already supports that, so it's an alternate plumbing scheme, if you will, that generally doesn't require direct wiring. But what's really cool is it's exactly the same stuff that's controlling your smart light bulbs and things like that. So one application that, of course, immediately comes to mind is I'd like to control my layout lighting and cycle the time of day and integrate that into everything else I'm doing. But there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, you could cause all the signals at the bridge across the door to set to stop when your dishwasher says the cycle is done. Or
Well, I thought I
the washer is done and you need to run out and move the wash into the dryer before your wife comes home.
There's excitement online. Heath is excited to hear that MRCS is selling MQTT hardware.
Not yet.
Not yet, but we're a fixin'. That's the Texan for
A
future
fixin' start.
indefinite intent. No, but we are fixing to do MQTT.
You forgot your big cowboy hat, though.
I forgot my hat.
Yeah.
Well, what can I tell you?
Well, I remember hearing, and I think it was a program similar to this that we did that was on Crew Lounge back when we were doing those here. And I remember Bernard, you were talking about Bernard earlier, talking about that MQTT thing, which I'd never heard of before. And I think the example he gave was you could have a light turn on or off. Well, why wouldn't you make a switch on your layout go, in the diverging or main?
Right. And that really comes back to what you were saying earlier, John, about, there's a huge commercial market. The companies that are pushing it are people like Cisco and IBM and several others. Apple, I'm sure, has got its finger into that. And honestly, these guys spend more money on Monday morning before coffee break than we as the model railroad community is going to spend ever. So we're riding a cost curve when we use this stuff that's very, very, very favorable.
Oh, yeah. Piggyback off it as much as you can. I think it's a smart move.
That sounds great.
Even the open source community with the MQTT brokers and whatnot, like even if the companies stopped supporting it, the hobbyists who are doing this for whatever, say Meshtastic or something like that, they're just going to keep doing it. And there will always be support for this stuff, even if the big companies gave up tomorrow.
But Mosquito's still there, and there's no reason you can't use it. Mosquito is obviously a play on MQT. And if it's not that broker, it'll be another one.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is great. Like even if the big corporations stopped, this isn't going away anytime soon. This is just open source and all that.
Something else that's really good about the open source stuff, from my perspective, is I've had conversations with people who run layouts, and they have proprietary system that only 2 guys in the entire club know how to work it, or how it's written, or how it works. And if they die or they're not available anymore, or maybe they turn into jerks that you don't want in the club anymore, whatever reason you can think of why they wouldn't have them in there anymore. While using this, I guess, open source stuff or stuff that's really out in the public avoids that problem completely. And so I think it's really smart for people, I think more for a club setting.
I think, in the club you have the turnover thing. I mean, most people who are active in clubs, it's because they don't have the long-term space to build their own layout. Mm-hmm. And, that's for a whole bunch of reasons, all of which are perfectly valid. And it's great that those guys can participate in the hobby by joining a club. But it does mean that, the average tenure of a particularly a younger person with an active career might only be a few years in a given place. And being able to use code that's publicly available and that people would expect to encounter in their career and have some familiarity with it just makes it incredibly easier to backfill and, frankly, for them to find something great to do wherever they're going.
Makes sense to me. Looking for more questions here on the comments section or the text chat on the side there. If anybody has questions for any of these guys, because everybody here, well, let me put it this way, and I know I'm setting the bar really low when I say this, but they know a whole lot more about this stuff than I do. I could answer some questions from people who really don't know anything, but
I have a question for the smart people. If you were going to start over in 2026, what technology would you start with on your layout, and where would you go if you wanted to get into controlling turnouts, controlling signaling, and are you going to answer?
I would run DC only.
Yeah. I know you would. That's why I was asking the smart people on the panel.
By the way, Heath, don't tell anybody this, but I was including you in the smart people comment.
Oh, I wouldn't include myself in that comment, but I appreciate that.
You wear glasses, though, so you have to be smart.
Oh. I'm just so dumb I can't see.
Yeah.
Let me take a stab at it. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. You
Money, too.
probably want to scope the technology you're using to match your requirements. If I were, at my age, I'd be probably downsizing, maybe using a spare bedroom or maybe a bonus room. And I wouldn't be expecting to have more than, say, half dozen locomotives. I'd probably build the switching layout just because of my interests. And something like DCCEX would be a good layout, locomotive control application for me. I don't know how much signaling I would use. Probably, I might be needing an interlocking tower or something. I'd probably just implement that either in the scripting language for DCCEX or on an Arduino. If I were doing a club size layout, hard to say. Have to see where MQTT is at that point as a generally supported hobby technology. LCC has some benefits there. I was talking with a number of LCC developers last 2 weeks ago now at the end of the Chattanooga convention. And the consensus around the breakfast table on Sunday morning before we packed up was kind of maybe 10% really need a serious layout control bus, something like CMRI or LCC. And of those, probably 1 or 2% actually need LCC. So you have to be pretty far over on the big layout with a lot of traffic and a lot of signaling and CTC to justify getting into either of those. It's a little bit of an engineering task. I mean, and you shouldn't approach a task like that lightly. But for most people, most of the time with a small layout, I think, something like this, or who's the other Wi-Fi guy, who just is direct to the decoder?
Oh, LocoFi?
Yeah, something like that might be perfectly adequate.
For me, sunk cost fallacy of LCC aside here, the reason I completely agree with what Seth is saying there. If you're doing a small thing at home, shelf layout, DCCEX is probably where I'd be going right now. That or maybe the TCS like LT50 for home.
Right.
I do have the CS105 at home, but I got that for just learning the LCC stuff, and now it kind of reversely followed me to the club a little bit. But I think it kind of just depends on money and what you need, and the DCCEX type system is a great place to start.
If money didn't matter, I was just telling these guys at lunch, I went to Train Mountain last week. And this whole grand scale stuff and 7.5-inch railroading, it's totally impossible to do here unless you know people. But it's amazing because the rest of my hobby time is spent building robots with high school students. And so I really like using milling machines and home shop machining, and got into welding and other stuff. So I have a funny feeling if I were starting over and like my house burned down and my wife divorced me and I had nothing better to do, I'd buy a van and live somewhere off the road near Train Mountain and scratch build a $1,300 25-ton locomotive from JT Engineering.
Oh, just sell your house and buy Klamath Falls.
Yeah. They can buy a whole hotel for $185,000. The problem is you have to seismically retrofit it, which would probably cost about $600,000.
That's still half the price of
You
your
could put a
house.
layout on each of the 4 floors and
I
a
think
hobby
that's a-
shop on the ground floor.
That's a great idea.
It still wouldn't buy you a shack here. So
I think that's
anyway,
a great idea. When do we start?
I don't know. Got to buy a van.
We should-
got to get a van down by the river.
You
First.
live in a van down by the river. Yeah. No, but we should plug that because JT Engineering, Dave just mentioned, Dave and I went to something in the Bay Area here called Open Sauce, and you can see a little segment about that on one of the recent podcasts. I think it might have been from last month. And JT Engineering is a YouTube channel that you should check out here on YouTube. And he's building these
kits.
Yeah, they're like giant model kits, really. I say giant. They're 7.5-inch gauge, right? And the guy who runs it, his name is Carson, and he does videos on how to build these trains and the tracks and do the track work. And I watched one video where he was building a switch, and it was just really cool because he's like super fun to watch. He messes up and he shows you when he messes up. So it's not just, it's perfect every time, like made for TV or whatever. And you can tell that he has a lot of fun doing it. And he has a way of explaining things that is just easy to understand. Like when I watched his videos, I'm like, oh, I want to do this. But then you realize you need a shop. Like you need a space the size of the room we're in. Maybe not this big, but
you need to know people with the robotics lab.
Well, yeah, but you need to know people
and friends who have laser welders. So it's so close.
He could do it.
It's so close. Yeah. I just like being married. So I think it's probably not advisable at this point, but
you're assuming that she would say the train has to go or I'm going to go.
My wife is way smarter than I will ever be. So.
Oh. Well, that makes her smarter than all of us too.
Well, whatever. It's all good.
I was going to say something earlier about the whole club thing, and I'm trying to remember what it was now. It had to do with what you were talking about, Seth. If it comes to me, I'll interrupt somebody, I'm sure.
There's a lot of opinions about clubs. Depending on the area you're in, clubs can be the only option to run on a large layout, say in the Bay Area or down in LA. Rural areas, you have more opportunity to have someone with a pole barn or a big old house. But I think in urban areas where a lot of the jobs are, a club's your best bet. At the same time, clubs are social. So if you're not the most social person in the world, it can be really grating to deal with people.
Yeah, I think let's come out and say it. I mean, you have to be politically skilled to build a coalition to do it the way you're comfortable doing it.
Well, Heath is making a comment that, Heath, you can talk live, right? I'm just saying, but yeah.
I know when not to speak.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fine. You're not part of a club, are you?
I am not a part of a club primarily just because of my location. Clubs are,
so
there aren't clubs in my area.
You can say it without pissing anybody off then.
Well, I have friends that are part of clubs, but yeah, I mean, clubs can definitely be challenging because not everybody agrees. And when everybody gets a vote, if your vote does not win, sometimes that can create a difficult situation. I personally like having the ability to go to a single owner's railroad and help them build their vision, because then there's no politics. There's one dictator, they run, they make we get to give input, but ultimately it's their layout. They say how it goes, and everybody either, gets in line and enjoys their vision, or they go find another vision to follow.
Couldn't hear the last half of what you said because an express train just went by.
Yeah.
But
I'll just tell you it was brilliant, and we can just leave it at that and move on to the next comment.
Here's the problem.
All hail our benevolent dictator Murph, constructor of the Boulder Creek line.
yes.
Yeah, actually, the biggest thing is making your own means that you are the dictator and you get to decide what's going to be there. At the same time, if you're in Boulder Creek and you're 20 miles away from everybody but James, you're not going to get a lot done real fast. And if it's a big layout, you might bite off more than you can chew. Not saying that I might have. And it's kind of
those are the old layouts.
Oh yeah, I did rip down one layout that was fairly large too. But the other thing is, as you say, it isn't so much politics at a club. It's really a matter of people have their ideas that are going to take things different ways. And a lot of times in a club, you might actually have 5 people that work.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And there might be 20 people in the club. And you cannot lose one of those 5 people or nothing gets done. And that's the big thing. It isn't necessarily politics. It's just a matter of you've got to take into account, well, that guy really wants this part. And believe me, we've had some discussions where it's like, if we just weren't doing this, this would be so much easier. And we know, no, that person won't want us to do it that way. And that's kind of frustrating sometimes.
In a way, though, isn't that like the person who's the only one who knows how to run the layout holding everything up?
Oh, they can't. Oh,
You know?
yeah. I mean, James had to take a vacation one day, and we came in, and Matt was like, James gave me a quick run through of how to set up the camera cars. I think I know how to do it, etc. And that we needed somebody that actually was there that could actually repair things on the fly if we had any problems and that kind of stuff. And it really hurt. And the same thing is true. If Chris is out on vacation, our software might not get an update. And you know, if Josh has something going on, well, we're on our own setting up for the next op session.
And he's the only one that knows where that car is because
Oh
he
my
knows
God.
where everyone is.
Josh is just amazing. You can go, where's this green number 1563? And he's like, oh, well, that was last over in Igo at the end of this siding. You go over there, it's like, how does he do this? We have almost 2,000 cars on the layout. And I swear to God, you can quiz them on just about any one of them. So these people are like, you must have them. And so you have to take into account their wants and needs and that kind of stuff. So I know that's not technology, but
It's important.
it's very important. Yeah.
That does kind of lead into the thing of like Matt not knowing because I didn't give the best instructions because I am not a teacher of any sort, how to set up the cameras. You know, something that I've spent, 6 years at this point working on and learning. And, you know, it's using JMRI memory variables. So it's all this really back of the like program things
Yeah.
to connect this to that to the other. And that also kind of just made me realize we needed to make a simpler way to do that. So, you know, we ended up interfacing with JMRI via a web page so that you put in the camera and you hit connect to this engine and it just does it. You know, there's no more having to go scroll a list of 300 engines and find the one that you want. And then if you forget to hit enter, it just doesn't connect because it's keeping that, you know, it hasn't actually put it into the memory variable.
Yeah. I was not knocking Matt. He did get trains running. Life is good.
Neither am I. I'm just saying like that's one of those things of that is the way that technology does kind of roll into this because there's generally always a solution. Sometimes it takes being next to or pulled out of the situation to realize what that solution needs to be. And you know, you can get a lot of it done with technology because teaching somebody how to do it, you know, none of us, as far as I know, are teachers, and we only, you know, especially when you're like the subject matter expert of something, you don't necessarily think about what other people don't know about a system, so you may not explain it in a way that they understand. So sometimes, you know, just creating a technological solution to get past that is pretty helpful.
Yeah. The other side of this that does really tie into technology is you get to a point with old infrastructure, especially at clubs that have grown and grown and grown, where a few of you are really interested in modernizing things. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we kind of go, we're moving to this. And a lot of the membership goes, you're going to change things, what? And you've got to take that huge leap of faith and rip out old stuff and put in new stuff and be ready for the resulting problems. At home, that doesn't matter so much unless you got an operating session breathing down your neck. At a club, yeah, you kind of got to fit into work windows and you got to kind of calm down the masses once in a while too.
Well, there's the whole thing too of, I mean, even right here, there's a layout here behind us in the room, 2 layouts behind us in the room.
Pretty good size.
Yeah, and if you ever look underneath there, it looks like spaghetti wires. I mean, half of this wires can't possibly be connected to anything because there's so much. And I've had discussions with some people that work on the layout here. Thankfully, I don't work on it. That's why it works probably. But where I'm just kind of like, you know, well, if you look under there and you're having trouble tracing this to that, why not just take it all out and rewire the whole thing so it's easy to understand and it's standardized or whatever? And the answer is that would be way too much work and way too much problem. And yes.
Let me tell you about punch blocks.
Oh, it's because you're doing that, aren't you, at SVL?
Oh, yeah.
You're rewiring stuff?
Yeah, we can't see the wires because the punch blocks, which was our old way of connecting the old buttons with button panels and LEDs and everything else, would go to a punch block, which then would go to, in one side, a turnout, and the other side,
Like a telephone
switch it,
punch block?
and blah, 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 and then leads to LEDs and leads.
Telephone number?
Yep. Telco. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and these things are about this big. They've got a whole bunch of pins on them, and they were mounted underneath. So I couldn't figure out how to do the routing of that because, quite honestly, if I went in between the two layers of our layout, I would be like Winnie the Pooh, and you would need to like butter up my sides to get me back out.
Oh, can't unsee that.
And there's
I know. I was starting to get hungry for
but
dinner.
there's no honey, Murph.
That's right.
Yeah.
At any rate, so, we just had to take the leap. We took the leap to doing the panels, but we left a bunch of the punch blocks. And then things started going wrong with tortoises. Tortoises get old, and there's these little fins inside, and they will break off their rocker, and they will stay shorted instead of actually moving to change the polarity of your frogs. You all know about polarity of frogs, right? I hope. So anyway, then you're sitting there snooping around the layout going, oh, what turnout was that? You're trying to trace wires, and it goes underneath a punch block. And 3 wires come out from the other side of the punch block.
So you don't know what's what?
And you don't know which one's what. So the first punch block I removed was with Dave. And I brought in a fine tool. You know what a fine, it's a roto tool kind of thing.
Oscillating multi-tool.
Dave was cackling as he went at this punch block with a roto tool. It was the funniest damn thing I've ever seen.
Because we actually saved about 25 pounds of wire.
Yes. So anyway, we spent the last year removing more, and we still have another 12 or 16 punch blocks left. But we can actually now diagnose problems on the clearer areas.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's when I would talk to people.
Exactly.
Like, why don't you just like take it all out and then just do only what's there? Not what was there 100 years ago, but what is there now. And the answer was always, yeah, but then the layout won't be working, and we need to be open for the public and run trains here. Because, you can't just do that. It'll create problems that you don't expect. It's kind of like the old problem with tearing apart steam engines that need to be rebuilt is, you think you're going to get it done because you think it just needs this, but as you get things taken apart, you find more things that need to be fixed. It's a cascade of problems basically that you create. And that really was the answer.
Right.
It's like we have to be open for the public, so we can't do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not disparaging the people that put in the punch blocks, that did the wires to the push buttons, to the LEDs and all that.
I'm sure it was real cool at the time.
It was the
was
solution
very
they
cool.
needed to do what they did at the time. And James and I, all the way through, going, oh, I see, they did this because of this and this and this. We don't need to do that anymore. And then we get liberated and we rip things out. So there's that. And the other thing, Ray run our dead rail. One of the things I've toyed with, if I were to redo my layout at home, it wouldn't be 2 level anymore because I'm getting too old for that stuff. And it would probably be a switching layout. And honestly, I'd like to probably go to something, if I were to do that, I'd probably do something like Blue Rail, O-scale, and it would be a sci-fi layout.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. And, the Blue Rail decoders, that's something? Blue Namis.
Yeah.
I'd do a Blue Namis because I'd probably only run about 3 or 4 trains, and that would work out great. And that would be kind of nice, and not having to worry about shorts and cleaning track and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the nice thing about that whole Blue Nami thing, 2 things. If you're using track power, it's all you need is just the power. You don't need to send your DCC commands over your track. But the other nice thing about it is what someone else mentioned is about dead rail. You can do a dead rail and not even need power to the track. As a matter of fact, you're going to be checking out some garden scale stuff this Saturday that's using Blue Nami because Kevin just finished putting Blue Nami in batteries and all this stuff.
And we go to Ray's.
right? Well,
Which
Ray
is-
doesn't use Blunami, but
He
he
uses
is using,
he uses
a
the AirWire.
Yeah, AirWire. He uses the AirWire with those. I forget what the name of the controllers is, but yeah. And so now you
Rail
can't
Pro.
really do that with the smaller scales. Anything smaller, I think, than O scale, you're still kind of pressed for. Although I know the battery technology is coming along. I mean, we have batteries in phones that last for a day.
Tim Valley had developed a solution for HO scale, and then he did he pass that along to a different company or not?
No, I think he had a near-death
scare.
experience.
Yeah.
And but I believe he brought that back, and I had an opportunity to run on his layout about 10 years ago, and he was doing OM3, so very much
Yeah.
the same size
Yeah.
as HO.
Duncan brought an engine to my old Tehachapi layout that was dead rail and ran it on my rails.
And it ran very nicely. And
Yeah.
he just got whatever the small version of the iPad was at the time,
Right.
and used those as throttles. And, we ran all morning, put everything on charge, went to lunch, came back and ran all afternoon.
Right.
It was perfectly acceptable.
So there's some really good alternative solutions for people out there.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get all the way into, MRCS or LCC or things like that, or you don't need a mega DCC system, but it depends on what you're going to run.
Right.
I want to go back for a second to the whole, what would you use if you were starting in 2026? Because really only one of us answered that question. And I want to mention
Grand scale for sure.
two of us answered. Grand scale.
Yeah.
I think Seth said something about that little box
Yep.
and making
DCC
a shelf layout.
and shelf layout.
We'll scale 40K.
I was going to say you are starting in 2026 in a way because your layout's being built now. But I didn't answer the question, and I wanted to take the opportunity to bring up our friend Goofy Gary in Sacramento. He has a layout that's probably more like what you're talking about, Seth. It's kind of it's like half of a garage, and it's kind of a switching layout. I mean, it has probably, if I had to guess, probably about 60 feet of mainline run or thereabouts. It even has a Y. It has a loop. He has a bunch of little switching districts on it. And he operates the whole thing, I think, using a Sprague and a Mac.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And he'll run 6 trains on it. And it's fine.
Yeah.
So you don't really need a whole lot to have a lot of fun.
No, Sprague is kind of from the same general design philosophy as this. And
I think it's a 5 amp thing.
Yeah. And you don't even need 5 amps. I mean, seriously. So that's, I think, a pretty good idea for a downsized layout. Murph, was it one of you guys was saying, well, I think I'd rather do it dead rail. I think that was Murph.
Yeah.
And, that's certainly possible too.
Right.
Blunami, the Loco 5 would do that.
Right.
Another thing with dead rail, you don't have to have the rails themselves dead. You just need power, and that's how you do small scale with dead rail.
So Railroad Bob here asked, with dead rail, can you work your signals like the real ones? So how do you do detection if you're doing dead rail?
You basically have to have an overlay that leaks current in that you can detect. So you're back to wire up your track is the answer.
Right.
Because you have to, because it would have to detect whatever shorts or whatever on it.
Basically, the way the railroad does it is
exactly like the real railroad does it.
Iron axle across the rail, and it's not a great conductor, but you've got 50 tons sitting on it, so it's good enough.
Speaking of big axles, there's another big loud train going by. So I hope James or Heath aren't talking right now.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, was Heath talking? Go ahead, Heath.
Oh, we'll just step all over him.
No, I
the
just
train's
said that's.
gone now. Please proceed, sir.
I mean, it's exactly how the real railroad does it, right? I mean, the power's in the locomotive, and then they've got wires on the track for the detection. So it'd be more
Totally nerd
prototypical.
out because on a text chat earlier in the week, I noticed that you can now buy UWB modules, which are ultra wideband antenna, steerable antenna systems for under $10 a piece, which now meant that at least in HO scale, it may be possible to completely implement a PTC-like system where you have an indoor GPS and you have stationary things and you can figure out where each locomotive is. And while you're at it, you might as well just tag the crew so that you know when they head off to the kitchen or the bathroom in the middle of the operating session and you can't find them. Yeah, James?
So I don't know why this didn't line up with April Fools, but I really wanted that LCC crew call board to exist. You know,
Yes.
I think it was a little overkill on some of the ways they were talking about it, but you know, the whole idea with seat detectors and whatnot.
Explain what it is, James. Some people might have missed it.
So a couple of months ago, it was for some reason like 2 months before April Fools, and this was totally an April Fools level joke because there was a lot of detail in this thing, but it was a LCC based like crew call.
It was on the
detection.
groups.io list, right?
And it had like, you know, button seat detectors, and you had to like go put your key card or something in, and if you didn't take it, it would like give you a zap or something. You know, I wanted a form of this to exist. It would have been kind of helpful for crews or clubs and whatnot, because you know, you have that guy who disappears to the bathroom. You have no idea where he went for 45 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever.
And he never OS'd in the first place, and it took 15 minutes.
Yeah, he was in a
And I was
siding,
stacking
and he
trains.
just
Sorry.
Yeah,
You know, I used to be in the call center business. I was a product manager for a company here, and I had a product management group, and we handled call centers that were being, you know, sold to.
Back when they ran call centers in the United States.
Yes, back when they spoke English, although, you know, for some values of English, I guess. And they had a concept called adhesion, which basically is how many of the butts were in the seats when they were supposed to be, and were they not taking too much time to wrap up calls before they were ready for the next one. And the customers used to always, you know, quietly kid us about, could we get like an old Ford spark coil connected to the seat? And it sounds to me like you needed that for your April Fool's system, you know. Oh, they're in the can too long. Zap! Fingers in the snacks too much. Zap!
Like the one thing would be, you know, hey, did this person walk out of the layout? You know, you have an RFID reader or something like that that says whether or not they're within a certain range of whatever base station. Like,
and a shock collar, you know.
Yeah.
Complete system.
Hey, there we go. LCC, MQTT, and dead rail, you know, battery packs, except the dead rails around your neck.
Forgot about the VR headset, because then you could have little synthetic CGI train crew go off and run around.
Yeah.
Now we just need precision scaled model railroading. That would be great.
That's what joking around about the UWB.
There was a Star Trek episode where they had collars and they had little things on them.
Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. That is actually a quote from Dr. McCoy.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Actually, it was also in Star Trek V, and it was the president of the Federation.
Yeah.
It sounds like something Spock would have said, just because it's logical.
I used to have I'll have to play you the song sometime.
Mm-hmm.
What song?
I made the theme song for SVL.
You did?
Yes, I'll have to play it for
Before
you
AI?
Before
yes,
AI.
I did it in GarageBand.
Oh, that's even better. A Murph original. Maybe we'll play it on the next Talking Trains show.
Yeah.
If only it just needs a John Abatecola guitar
a drum
solo to close it out.
we can work on that. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm looking for more questions and other comments and insults on our text here, and I'm not seeing a whole lot coming in. Maybe we should.
The next obvious question is, what's the future? I think we've hinted on it a little bit, but
that's a great place to kind of wrap this up. You know, the future.
Yeah. Well, since you brought it up, Heath, maybe you should tell us what you think the future is.
Technology moves so fast And I think that model railroading benefits from the speed of the technology. And I'm definitely don't feel like I'm on the forefront of it anymore. So I don't even know what's coming. I mean, I think MQTT with home automation is something that's really interesting, but what holds me back from using it more is just trusting in the wireless protocol and all of the different wireless points that I would need to manage on my layout. But yeah, I think more connected systems will be the future and more simplicity. I actually recently set my layout up to use Rodney Black's cats, and I was shocked at how much of the scripting was taken care of for you in the back end. You basically just said, here's one switch and here's another switch, and it figured out, all of the scripting, which I hope will eventually find its way into things like LCC and MQTT. I do think AI is going to be a part of the future of model railroading. I have been using it to help my JMRI and CATS and MQTT, and I've got a Python script that does my sunset lighting on the layout and all kinds of stuff, and all of that was done with AI. So I do feel like there will be a place for it in the future as well. But being an N scaler, I do think size is something that hopefully dead rail and other technologies like that eventually will scale down as well. But I don't know, I'm excited. I love playing with the different toys and everything that are available to us that are developed in other industries and we get to take advantage of.
Yeah. What about you, James? What do you think the future holds, or what are you looking at?
So I'm gonna go take this a slightly different direction because I was thinking about it just now. But the younger generation, I think, is a big part of where the technology is going to go, and keeping them interested and whatnot. As more just basic people get into STEM type stuff, even if they don't intentionally do it. I think that we'll see more of the ideas and thoughts and whatnot. Because let's face it, as we've been around longer, we have less and less time to put into this type of stuff, just in terms of our lifespan. Whereas somebody who's 20 has another 60 years or so to put into the hobby. I think that's kind of a big part is for technology is just like the younger generation and bringing them in and the ideas and fostering those ideas instead of resenting them per se.
That's a very good take.
And I mean, even if they're wrong about something, that you make it a teachable moment and then listen to what they have to say too.
And this is a guy who said he wasn't a teacher.
Yeah, you said you weren't a teacher, James. What is this?
Well, maybe I guess I have some wisdom somewhere.
I think we're all teachers.
He's getting older.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting older. That's what the gray in the beard is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Seth?
In terms of technology in the hobby, one thing that happens is every generation of railroaders who come in, have grown up, had certain educational and life experiences, and they're going to want to do it in the tools they know and are comfortable with. I go back to that conversation I had in Chattanooga, where probably in the high 90% of people in model railroading, CMRI is plenty, but it's relies on some older concepts that, kids who've gone to college and learned electrical engineering or just, been techs or gone to military technical schools. These are now technologies that are not used. So people are going to use what's comfortable for them, and they're going to try and solve the problems in front of them, based on their experience and the kit of tools they have. So I think we'll keep rolling forward. And the good news is it probably means we'll keep taking advantage of industry trends and, riding the good cost curves like IoT and so forth. So I would expect we'll probably go there, and it's a good thing, especially for the clubs with younger people coming and going and moving on in their careers, you've got to give them an opportunity to use that, or it's just old and stuffy and wouldn't be much fun.
Mm-hmm. No, it's you.
Future. I think there's some cool stuff that is starting to eke out around the stuff Microchange was doing with printing on the sides of the cards and decorating, pre-weathering. I also weather over top of that stuff, so it's just a nice starting base. But I can imagine a world where you could go order a piece of rolling stock and actually ask it to, match this prototype and go find all the pictures and, hey, add these tags to it. I know that's controversial, but if you're modeling the modern day, everything's graffitied, no matter what you think about it, if you're trying to be accurate. So I think it'd be possible to take, your YouTube stream of cars that have the photographs and actually say, oh, use it to identify the type of car. Hey, I want to buy that car. Some vendor is going to figure this out and say like, oh, he wants to buy the TX 60-foot boxcar with these tags on it. And you'll be able to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never would have thought about that, but
all the technology exists today, all the AI front end, all of the manufacturing back end. It's possible to do. It's just whether or not people are going to want to pay for that.
And theoretically, somebody could use AI to search the internet for all the sides of that particular report mark and create that exact car on a specific date. Because it'll change, right? From day
right.
to
So
day.
it could be like probably hard for Jack Burgess.
Well, it's August of 1939.
Yeah. And they probably don't have the YouTube for that.
Probably don't have that.
Yeah.
But anything modern, I could see that. That's an interesting take.
Easier to use that than to go to realpictures.net.
Yeah, I mean,
faster, but oh man.
Bachman at the Chattanooga show showed a bunch of prototype decorated cars that were very similar to what Microchange was doing with the AccuRail cars last year.
You think
so Bachman's doing it too now?
Bachman is going to do it. They have a Milwaukee caboose that is modeled after pictures that somebody got. And they have hopper cars, and they have, I think, a boxcar. Well, I think it's very cool. I think for the people that may not have the time, I highly recommend learning how to paint and weather, because it was what kept me sane during COVID. And I really enjoy that now. But I think there's a lot of people who are just scared, very scared to screw up a model. Now that models cost $40, $50, $60, you don't want to take a paintbrush to it if you think you're going to screw it up.
Well, so you practice on the cheap stuff, though.
Yep.
I've talked about that for years on this channel.
Yep.
But that's interesting. And I didn't know that Bachman was doing the same thing. So it just goes to show that a good idea is a good idea.
Yep.
Right. So
it's super expensive to do right now.
We know how that goes. Everything gets cheaper as technology advances.
Yep.
So, I guess I'll go next since I'm kind of the next person in the table here. I think that, and we haven't really talked about this at all, I think that a huge part of the future of the hobby is going to involve virtual stuff, meaning we have train simulators. And there are a lot of people that use train simulators, and they will build entire lines, accurate lines, to run their simulated trains on. And so it's not so much the stuff, like you brought all these little samples of things and little boards and stuff. It's not so much that as much as it is inside a computer and inside people's imagination. So that's what one of these days I'd like to do a show on that, but I just don't think I know anybody who knows that much about train simulators.
There were a couple of people around here, in fact, in this very room, doing a presentation on what they called V-Scale virtual. And I think we had them at a SIG meet. Plug for the SIG meet, the week between Super Bowl and playoffs next February. We'll be in the East Bay, but something we do here in the Bay Area every year, and it's also available virtually. But we had a bunch of these guys talking about building virtual layouts and modeling real pieces of track that you could run. And I think you're absolutely right. And that's something all you need is a laptop with a decent display,
Sure.
or a headset, and away you go.
And like I said, people have modeled existing lines. I mean, I think someone has modeled this line here, the San Francisco to San Jose line, or San Jose to San Francisco line. And I know someone else had done the Yosemite Valley. We were talking about Jack Burgess. Someone actually has done the Yosemite Valley, the YV in a train simulator. And I've seen little pictures of it. But that's using technology for a different kind of model railroading, but it's still, it's connected.
Yeah, it's experiencing railroading. Sure.
Yeah. What about you, Murph?
I would really like to see, and I think it's possible, basically an automated programming system for your engines and stuff, your fleet, where you simply say, okay, speed match every engine to this curve.
That'd be nice.
And you just put it on the track, and it has sensors along the track, and it doesn't need to run two in parallel to get the match. You should be able to say, I don't want any sounds above 60 decibels, for instance, because with my hearing, it drives me crazy now. Some people like it louder, but going through every car, every engine in your fleet and setting it down is enough to drive you crazy. All that kind of stuff I think is very important. You want to be able to say, for all my fleet, F4, for instance, is always dynamic brakes. And some manufacturers are consistent with that, and some of them allow you to kind of go, oh, okay, I'm bringing it down from here. I'd really like to see that. So that's kind of would be one huge leap. The other thing is I'm kind of stealing from Raven or whatever on here, who also said basically having AI available to run trains. And unfortunately, in order to do that, you're going to have to rely on a system like CMRI or LCC to get your detection in and actually make some sense of that, and probably have to have some level of feedback on the engines. I would like to see in the future, and I think they'll be able to miniaturize it, cameras on board every engine. That should just be a thing. And it should report back via Wi-Fi or whatever, and should be able to work that way. And that would also include some LiDAR for there's something on the track. I'm going to go into emergency. If you're going to do automatic train running, better be able to do that.
Yeah, or take the siding or whatever.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure that there was a layout tour. It was the last layout tour we did. That was a guy named Clark down in Southern California. And I'm sure that he has automated trains that just run, and he uses them, like he has to get out of the way and stuff. But I'm pretty sure he uses
Burbank or Glendale.
I think he's in Burbank. And
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he said he was using scripts in JMRI. Do you remember? Was it scripts in JMRI? I don't remember now.
Was using dispatcher in JMRI maybe?
Say again?
Dispatcher in JMRI. It allows you to set up routes.
Is that what maybe
it'll automatically run?
Dave was doing something similar, but he used a different technology.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. Most of that stuff is scripted.
Yeah, it is scripted.
Yeah.
Imagine that automated train, trying to run at SVL.
Amongst the normals or
Yeah.
the abnormals.
I don't think it would work.
No, that's why you need something with some sensing, some feedback from the signal system, et cetera, and an active dispatcher in order to have that happen. Maybe even AI dispatching.
I think actually to handle the variety of situations, you probably need to be at AI.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, it's a fixed track plan, and you could do a rule-based system, and it would be sufficiently constrained. But as a practical matter, I see everybody here who's ever tried to do any programming start to roll their eyes.
Yeah. It's kind of like you can program for the 95% case. That last 5% will get you every time.
Get you. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Well, maybe the future of that is not in AI at all, but rather just having people do it.
and that's that's the other answer to this. It's kind of like, what do people really want from the future? Is there anything you could actually sell somebody in the future? I mean, there are still people that love spiking their own track and all that kind of stuff, and they get a kick out of detailing the holy heck out of their track. Or, they don't really want technology on their, mining railroad from the, late 1800s or something like that, because there wasn't.
Well, it's not for everybody.
Right, yeah. But there are probably some advanced uses of technology that would fit right in for them because it adds something else. So, it was kind of a namby-pamby answer.
But I also think you get a view because, no one said the word modular either. If you look at the growth in kind of the T-track space, where people don't have space, but they still want a model and they want an achievable thing, that's just an area of fire growth
Honestly,
the field.
if you could have self-describing modules, and as you plug them together, the module gets to interrogate the module to the left and the module to the right, so it knows what it is, and it reports back to a dispatcher desk, and that builds the modular layout track plan as you build it. That would be really cool. You could actually run ops on a modular session a little bit quicker.
Yeah, there's a company that does that, Murph.
Sorry?
If you ever get to go to Amherst, talk to Kevin from Signal Logics. He is using a different version of CAN bus than LCC, and his system can geographically identify where the signal is in relationship to other signals. So for a modular setup, you can take and move the modules around, and it will redetect where it is in relationship to other modules. Yeah.
That's something that I think for the success of the modular hobby should be there, unless you just want to end up with N-track all over again.
I think our top secret producer is hitting on something, especially for us. I mean, we go and do op sessions all the time, and the trains are cool, and the technology is cool, and the layouts are cool, but we don't go for all that. I mean, we do, but it's more to hang out with you. It's an excuse to hang out with your friends. So, and Joey said the same thing. As soon as you remove the people, then everybody loses. So I think that's a great place to end this for now. I'm sure we'll
remove the people. Oh, wait, sorry.
No, yes. No, wait, not remove the people. Bring the people back. Yeah.
We're going to remove ourselves.
We're going to remove ourselves from this. Yeah. So we are going to remove the people.
Yeah.
And then everybody who's watching right now.
And then it'll be all over.
It'll be over. And everybody will cry. Ed's already getting a tear in his eye off camera here. I can see him.
Saying I can finally lock this place up.
Yeah, get the hell out of here. Anyway, I think that's a good place though. And we seem to come back to this topic about once a year. So we'll probably do it again sometime next year.
Okay. Somebody should call Caltrans, thank them for the atmosphere, and tell them they can quit running the trains now.
Oh, Caltrain. Yes. Yeah. And Caltrans, right?
Yeah.
Both of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. We'll call them up and tell them we don't need the ambiance anymore.
So you've got all that great Highway 17 traffic to look forward to too.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So that's it for this episode. I think we're done. Thank you guys for joining us here virtually, using technology to join us. Greatly appreciated. I know, Heath, you normally do a show on the same nights when I do shows. I hope it didn't ruin that for you. But it's good to have.
It's fantastic.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. And James, sorry you couldn't be here in person, but when we weren't getting a bunch of extra noise and you could actually hear you, it was nice to hear your input.
Yeah.
My lovely void.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, somebody had asked earlier who the president of SVL is. It's James.
Yep.
Oh, did someone ask?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I'm the vice president, which means I'm the guy who gets asked to fix things when James is not here.
And I'm the super. It's always my fault.
And I'm just some guy.
Just some guy.
I'm with Seth. I'm just some guy.
Just some guy.
Yeah. But thanks to you guys too for coming. Really appreciate it. And the last thanks I want to give is to the SBHRS and to our buddy Ed that I was just talking about tearing up. Thank you for opening up the space again.
Thank you, guys.
This would have been a real tight squeeze in the intergalactic.
You saved us from a close encounter of the unwelcome kind.
Yeah.
The other question is are there people is it Split Rock or somebody? I don't think we said Arduino enough.
Oh.
We're supposed to say Arduino, right? Arduino.
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 ESP32.
It's time to take a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say, James, before we go?
Might summon the wrong person with that.
Oh,
I don't know who, but you know.
well, now we got another train coming in, so we're not going to be able to hear anything else. So Arduino now and Arduino later. And thanks for coming.
Do we know?